Are WWE making a huge Raw change? Plus, we had a shock NXT heel turn last night, and we have a major update on Joe Hendry's WWE future. It's all in the Cultaholic Wrestling news right now. Changes ahead for some episodes of Monday Night Raw we're hearing today, Jack.
Yeah, from hashtag PWN, they say WWE have discussed taping WWE Raw on Sundays following international PLEs. The new format would give talent more time to recover rather than flying and rushing straight back into TV. This idea isn't approved or cleared yet, but it would make sense because these international PLEs are often followed just 2 days later by an American Raw. Whereas if it was filmed in the country which the PLE took place in, that would make more sense logistically and from a talent wellness point of view as well.
Yeah, because it means that once you've done that show on the Sunday, wherever you're based, you've also still got that really hot crowd, that momentum that you can carry over to the next night on Raw.
Oh yeah, it'll be like a mini Raw after WrestleMania.
Yeah, you've got that same fervent energy.
But on holiday.
Raw on holiday.
Yes.
What wacky capers will they get up to?
I think it makes sense. Obviously, the report here says it's not been confirmed or approved yet or anything, but it seems to be one of those ideas where you'd imagine it would go through. It just sounds like it makes sense.
Historically, of course, Raw went live as a way to compete with Monday Nitro in the 90s. And beforehand, they used to tape big blocks of the show, mainly for cost purposes in the mid-90s. So you get like a whole day of like Raw-based tapings that they'd put out throughout the weeks that followed. And then when Nitro went live, as a combat to that, Raw went live. And obviously, there is more eyes to gain on a live show than a taped show. When SmackDown has a taped episode, the figures do slightly drop off on, when that happens. Same with AEW, same when they do the same thing as well. So whilst potentially you might lose a little drop off because you'd have websites giving away the results of what happened, you'd still have, I think, an interest in seeing that show, and as we've said, a much livelier crowd as well.
Yeah, I think so as well. You're right. There is a bit of a con there, but there's a lot of pros to potentially outweigh.
There were 3 pros in action last night. The Rascals, well, 2 of them were. One was ringside, as we saw the Rascals, Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel. They were there along with Wesley, and we saw a heel turn from Wesley.
Yes, this came after they sort of were unsuccessful in their mission to win the NXT tag team titles from Nathan Fraser and Axiom. Everybody's consoling each other in the ring afterwards, particularly Wesley. The other two, the Impact or the TNA lads, are consoling Wesley. And then he turns on his buddies. He super kicked Trey Miguel and then booted Zachary Wentz down low and then did lots of other stuff. He threw one of them through the crowd barricade. He hit the running knees into the ring steps, all interspersed with angry acting.
Yes, screaming about how he'd been left.
You left me alone.
Yeah, that was it. So a heel turn, Wesley. I didn't see that coming.
No, I didn't see that coming, especially when they flirted with it, when he said, if I lose to Obafemi, I don't win back my North American title, something has to change. And we all thought a heel turn was in the works. But then the rest of the Rascals came along. We were like, oh, that's the thing that's got to change. That's the next big thing. And he seemed so happy in his promos. Oh, my friends are back. But no, they were just delaying that heel turn all along. And I think it's quite clever. I think it could be an exciting new direction for Wes.
We'll touch more on NXT from last night in a little bit, but let's talk about the announcement that was made yesterday by Shawn Michaels whilst on WWE's private jet, the naughty boy.
It's just chilling. He says that the first 2 weeks of NXT on the CW will be on the road. NXT will emanate from the Chicago Allstate Center on my birthday, October the 1st, and then the week after they'll be not Shawn Michaels' birthday. And so the first week they'll be in Chicago, and the second week they'll be at the Enterprise Center in St. Louis, Missouri.
The Allstate and the Enterprise will be hosting NXT for those first 2 weeks on the CW. They're going to be massive, aren't they?
Well, there was a little sneaky suggestion that maybe a certain Chicagoan will turn up at the Chicago one as well.
Colt Cabana?
No,
that'd be great.
The other one.
China Crisis? No.
CM Punk.
Oh, CM Punk! That one. Forgot about him.
Yeah.
I think, you've got to have Punk on that one.
You got a network debut in his hometown, and he has been involved, reportedly, behind the scenes in NXT as well. So it all make sense.
I think, definitely.
Just burying everything.
WrestleVotes, interestingly, add that sources state this is a development that transpired over the last few months when it comes to NXT being on the road in Chicago and St. Louis in the first 2 weeks of the CW run. WWE was initially planning on hosting NXT Deadline in Chicago on the 15th of December.
Okay.
I don't know whether that means they'll still do it or whether they've just moved it forward.
We'll have to wait and see. The Observer also adds that NXT on the road won't be a permanent change, saying the sources close to the situation have noted that it does not mean it will become a major arena show every week. The plan right now is that NXT will largely still be taped in Orlando at the Performance Center, but will run at arenas when they deem it makes sense to do so. They felt like kicking the show off in its early weeks on CW by running major arenas made sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And that second week, they're going to be up against AEW Title Tuesday as well. So they're going to want to put their best foot forward on all fronts. But I think it's also to show the CW that they mean business. And they don't rule out the idea of NXT becoming a full-time touring brand. Whilst I know it would be preferable to all concerned if NXT remains with a home base in Orlando. The Performance Center is an incredible place for people who are just starting out to cut their teeth and learn the ropes in a controlled environment. You get a little less of that when you're on the road all the time. And the NXT shed obviously is a special place at all of our hearts. Would you be happy if NXT went on the road all the time?
No, I wouldn't like it all the time personally, just because we've got two other touring brands in WWE and we see it from a lot of, every time a wrestling promotion reaches that size, whereas it's nice to have this kind of old school home base, I think, for NXT. And like you said, I agree with your point that, especially for the new superstars, having the Performance Center there on their doorstep and this little community where they all live together and everything, I think it's for the best for the younger members of the roster.
Next week on NXT, 3 title matches set up. Tony D'Angelo going to defend the Heritage Cup against Charlie Dempsey. That was made official last night. We'll also see the North American champion, Obafemi, holding an open challenge.
Could be anyone.
Who is stepping in there with big boy Obafemi?
It could be anyone. I wouldn't put my money on the mystery man. I'd say it will be Obafemi to retain, but you never ever know.
Somebody from TNA, maybe.
Oh, that would make sense, yes.
That'd be quite fun, wouldn't it?
From TNA, yeah.
Speedball Mike Bailey.
Clash of Styles.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Give me that, you cowards. Plus, the NXT tag titles will be defended. Nathan Frazier and Axiom facing Chase Hughes, Andre Chase, and Ridge Holland.
Now, this is the match that intrigues me the most out of all three. Because Nathan Frazier and Axiom, although they've been keeping a hold of those tag team titles, there's been dissension in the ranks. They've been annoyed with each other for both having singles ambitions. It's costing them a bit of focus. They still managed to pull out the win against Andre Chase and Duke Hudson. They still managed to retain this week against the Rascals, who then imploded, as we mentioned. But now we've got Andre Chase and Ridge Holland. And whereas Duke Hudson's an upstanding member of society and would never ever cheat in a match, we don't know what Ridge is going to do. And I worry that Ridge is going to do something unscrupulous and it'll lead to either a dirty title change or his expulsion from the U. So we'll have to wait and see.
You can't cast aspersions on a Yorkshireman like that.
Sorry.
Shocking behaviour. Last night on NXT as well, we had Joe Hendry beating Joe Coffey. Joe Hendry gave us his once every 10 years dive out of the ring as well. Good lad, Joe Hendry.
It was like a Fosbury flop, wasn't it?
It was a lovely little Fosbury flop. It also had the energy of, Mum, look at me, I'm about to jump into the pool. Look at me, Mum, look at me. Into the pool you go.
It's a collector's item.
It really
as he mentioned
is.
on Twitter, yeah, he did, didn't he? You said that once every 10 years.
He says, that's it now. See you in 10 years for the next dive. Good lad. He looked so happy once he hit it as well. After the win, he was interviewed in the ring and asked, have you had a lovely time in NXT? A bit like how they asked the competitors of Bullseye if they've had a lovely day. So it always kind of intimating that maybe that was the last time we'll see Joe Hendry, and Joe Hendry was very much to the contrary on that one.
Yes, he said, you're talking as if it's over. But I like it here, and I might just stay for a lot longer. I know there's a lot of people in that locker room who will have a problem with that, but they can find me right here next Tuesday. And as for what's next, you won't even need to say my name. Believe me, I will appear.
I think that's suggesting then that this wasn't just a short burst for Joe Hendry. I think he's going to be practically a full-time NXT guy as well as a full-time TNA guy now.
Right, yeah, and that's a very busy schedule, but fair play to him. He's maximising this popularity that I was going to say that he's found, that he is earned for himself.
Absolutely.
Yes. And I think, it's a very unique situation for a wrestler, but who better to maximize that than Joe Hendry?
Yeah, because we talked about it on previous news videos. Joe Hendry is signed to TNA. He's a TNA roster member, but he has been given the clearance to train full-time at the WWE Performance Center and appear on NXT seemingly as and when he wants to. So this is a really unique opportunity, and I think it showcases just how much stock WWE has in Joe Hendry right now.
Yeah, I would say so as well.
And obviously we know that he's got maybe about a year on his TNA deal. I'm heard it's about a year. I can imagine a bag of money being dropped in his general direction when the time comes.
Yeah, it's all setting him up, it seems, to sign full-time with WWE, doesn't it?
It seems that way.
I'd be shocked if that wasn't the outcome. But obviously anything can happen in wrestling, but it definitely seems to be lining up that way.
Everything seems to be coming up Millhouse for Joe Millhouse. On the podcast feed right now, I had a lovely chat with Primo Cologne, Eddie Cologne of World Wrestling Council. They got Anniversario 51 coming up, and we had about an hour where we talked about pretty much everything throughout his wrestling career. He even touches on his release from WWE and that weird situation around him getting a wellness violation that didn't really happen. He was very open about everything. Also, he tells us that he reveals why he thinks Carlos Colon, the great Carlos Colon, wasn't a fan of the Matadors. There was a real hint that his dad dropped that he wasn't a fan. You can hear it on the podcast feed and on the Patreon as well right now. Are you twitching tonight?
I am twitching tonight. Myself and Owen Mawson, twitch.tv/Cultaholic. We're still at the helm of Birmingham City.
Ooh, Bab.
We're doing okay. So join us at 6 p.m.
Doing okay.
Come on.
And twitch.tv/Cultaholic. And for the latest wrestling news, anytime, you can check out cultaholic.com. Stay safe. We're doing okay.